RBI started NPCI in 2009. The leading banks took the initiative, and that time itself, NPCI was structured as a not-for-profit or a public good institution. And most of the platforms now, of course, UPI is something which country uses as its primary payment system. But majority of the systems which NPCI has built, like FASTag, the Bharat Bill Pay, the other payment systems like IMPS, have been built with the similar principles of DPI. But of course, UPI is the front runner in terms of the popularity, the user's choice. But I think NPCI as an institution, and I would like to give a lot of credit to RBI to thought through this about 15 years back and kind of get the basic building blocks right. Goes without saying that the commercial banks, the leading banks, 10 banks, including the public sector banks and private sector banks, also stepped up to kind of make this entity successful. And we had the basic building blocks in place. When you looked at the first CEO, Mr. Hota, and his ability to kind of create a agile organization, create a drive for innovation, and I think we could only leverage and do better over the period. So I think that's a background on how we could start seeing that things can become better. And of course, when before UPI came in, we had a good experience on payment systems, what worked in IMPS, what didn't work in IMPS, how the technological changes were advancing back in the market. The whole Prime Minister's Jam Trinity, how it created the base. I think this fundamentally everybody having a bank account, I think it's a revolutionary step in his mind, and and the banks also stepped up. The government, RBI, kind of made that happen. Actually, it created a great base for the UPI to start off. The smartphone penetration, this whole app ecosystem, app economics starting off. I think everything played a role. So it created a stepping stone for UPI to come in and play a role. Goes without saying that while when UPI came in, the COVID accelerated that drive, and the whole diverse ecosystems of the new app providers came into to play, and kind of that whole TPAP model, right, was well accepted back into the ecosystem. When we looked at the whole risk management aspect, keeping the money flow within the banking system, creating a architecture that the TPAPs acts as a channel to access this money, irrespective of whether the customer's own money or now recently the RBI has permitted credit line. I think all things played out to make what UPI it is. Before UPI, we had IMPS, which is the account-to-account transfer mechanism, right? And and when we looked at IMPS, when we in early 2010, we were thinking of IMPS along with MPFI and under the leadership of Mr. Hota and the leading banks. That time objective was creating a account-to-account real-time transfers. But as the time passed, and some of the learnings which we got is, one is the only account-to-account transfers are not sufficient, right? We wanted to think very comprehensively, and and Mr. Nilekani was there as our advisor, and advisor for public policy and innovation. Pramod was there, part of our technology advisory committee. And when we were looking at this whole, when we stepped back and when we looked at it, I think a more comprehensive approach was needed, right? When consumer was dealing about his money, while we could put up some criteria that what was actually missing, right? One of the things you could look at is, yes, account-to-account real-time transfer was possible, but a better consumer experience was needed. When there was a new emergence of smartphone, the whole the app ecosystem was thriving on into 15-16. We felt there is a great opportunity to leverage this and provide a great consumer experience while designing the UPI to keep the complexity of that need at the back end, right? So while the consumer finds it very, very simple, can we transfer that ease on the front end, and can we design the complexity on the back end? I think this was the first issue which we saw, first opportunity we saw. The second opportunity we saw is convergence of a comprehensive digital payment system, right? And while the P2P is one of the needs, and it is a very important need, and it kind of gets the consumer onboarded onto the system slowly, that it's like people say that today's wow is tomorrow's ordinary. And I think a comprehensive digital payment was required, and we kind of had the basic building blocks right in the place, right in the beginning itself. Like getting a QR scan and pay. If when and we were seeing the merchant payments were actually shifting the transactions from a browser-based transactions to a app-based transaction. So on the app base, the QR scan and pay does not work, right? And when how do we transfer the control from a merchant's app to a UPI app? So the smart intent or a direct intent based flows were envisaged. The next gen payments like mandates and some of the recurring payments sort of use cases were coming in our mind when we were designing UPI. So we looked at it very, very comprehensively, and if you look at the, while of course the what UPI was launched in 2015-16, and which is not the UPI today, but the basic building blocks were so strong, right? Because we had the experience of IMPS, and with the visionaries like Mr. Nilekani, we could actually anticipate the future in a really big way. And goes without saying, the RBI, the banks, everybody kind of looked at it very promising innovation story, and we kind of looked at a future and worked backwards. UPI, we took about a year and a half to design this whole thing. When we designed also, it was not something that we worked and we came up with it. The design was itself was evolved with the ecosystem, right? So I remember the SBI, ICICI, all the large banks were part of the design. Some of the public sector banks, IBA was part of the whole design. Then CEO. IBA took multiple meetings to deal with this. RBI took multiple meetings even at the highest level. So I think this design was well, what you called nurtured, and kind of debated enough with the ecosystem, so that when we started the work, actually it was a very high accelerated approach to kind of get everybody on the board and start the system. So I believe that that initial period of taking everybody's views into consideration, making things better. RBI also spent a lot of time in making technological innovation as a well-regulated systems. We worked very closely with RBI to kind of get the rules and regulation fairly ironed out well before we launched up. I think most of the things were right in place when we actually launched the system. So I think that's the approach was helpful in ensuring that the many views were taken, many workshops were done, and many ecosystem participants actually contributed to make it a better system right from day zero. When the Prime Minister spoke about, I think he first came up with the PMJDY. When he advocated, even RBI advocated UPI. I think the objective was, for a large country like India, how can we democratize payment system? How can we ensure, before NPCI, if I just have to give you the example, before NPCI started, about 50 million people used digital payments. And I think the objective which was seen was democratizing and ensuring, and predominantly the 50 million people who use the digital payment, who had access, who had, in a upper class, or people who had access to resources. But I think the objective of UPI was, yes, smartphone was one of the barriers, right? But today the smartphone is available back in $100, and can we give access to digital payments to all? I think that was the objective. And if we are creating a DPI, if we are creating the payment systems, I think the objective is to ensure that every citizen is able to do it. And if you look at the system architecture, while system has evolved, I think the right from the beginning, some of the principle of using a fully open source from a system architecture standpoint, ensuring that the system is capable to scale up to process larger load. And the today one of the issues which we faced when the system started scaling up is the scalability on the bank side. But the RBI, the government worked with the banks also at the same with the same rigor. While NPCI was able to scale up systems fairly easily, the bank had this core banking system which was not designed for the scale. So a lot of efforts happened from the bank side also. Investments happened from the bank side to kind of scale up the architecture. So I think absolutely, I can say with the confidence that we were fairly confident that if we solve for it, if there is a trust in the system. I didn't see that scale was a challenge in the country like India. And the basic building blocks, the smartphones, the jam trinity kind of helped to get a scale. I think the banks and even NPCI pre 2015 era, we were like more like a user or a buyer of a tech, and I think slowly we transition it back to builder of technology. And of course, while I say that with the confidence, of course that journey continues. I'm saying nobody can say that they are fully there. I think we are trying our best, with all the employees of NPCI, trying to leverage the open source. And of course, and any technology, like any technology, it gets you advantages and disadvantages, right? So I think the whole revolution of open source has been a NPCI has been a beneficiary of that. And today there are softwares which are actually tested on scale, which are available off the shelf. Of course, goes without saying that you must build your own tech capability. Yes, information security and the overall patch management and some of the technological bringing them at par with the licensed software. There is some capability has to be built, but once you build that capability, I think it's only an advantage in that sense. And I have seen that today the large banks, the private public sector banks, have started looking at open source very differently, because we learned from Aadhaar was fully built on open source, and we got a confidence that yes, if Aadhaar can be built in a fairly secure and a standardized manner, why not NPCI? NPCI board also kind of wholeheartedly supported this whole thought process of moving to open source, build the capability in house. And I can say that today we are a kind of a journey of a NPCI fully establishing as a new age tech driven company, which is also running a clearing houses in a very responsible manner with the rules and regulations support and approvals from the RBI. See, today most of the banks or NPCI or the fintechs that are operating in the UPI ecosystem are already using AI at scale, right? Today one of the use case which we'll work very aggressively is fraud risk management, giving the banks and the ecosystem the insights on the transaction, because at this scale the rule based systems are fairly ineffective, right? And when you look at it, you need a AI based targeting. Of course, the false positives, false negative is a mechanism to keep ensuring that the models get better day by day, looking at the data, looking at the feedback loop. But I think the AI, I believe it's a AI assisted journey as of now. And I know not only NPCI but for the ecosystem. And I strongly believe that the next step for the platform is the AI embedded journey, right? So, and that's what I think most of the players are now looking at. And now the AI is possible on the edge as well. So I'm sure the app providers also will embed and make the consumer experience far more superior in that sense. Such a diverse ecosystems, competing forces, right? Obviously it goes without saying that there has to be challenges. But I think today I must say that under the guidance of the RBI and the government, we have been able to take ecosystem together. I think there has been only progress, and the ecosystem also has kept a fairly wide and open mind and a long term approach to look at whether we can do this for consumer, whether consumer can be put it in the center of everything, and Can we do this even if that might not be in the short term interest of the ecosystem or a stakeholders? Can we look at a long term interest? Can we look at a consumer lens in everything? Can we actually keep innovating, right? Because the consumers' demands are also changing globally because of the advancement in the technologies. So can we try to do things better and better each passing day? I think with this whole mindset, we have been able to deal with the challenges. Of course, in any large system, any open country like India, I think the challenges will be there. There will be, uh, the differing views, the diverse views, and I think NPCI's approach or the ecosystem's approach has been, how do we learn? How do we listen to everybody? Of course, sometimes it's not possible to pay attention to every detail, but then there is a regulator which brings back the ecosystem on track if we have missed something or if we have not done anything properly. We are nobody to guide the new countries, but if I have to just based on the learnings of India, I think the government and the regulator is super critical in building up the DPI. Their absolute buy-in, their absolute what you call blessings and drive must be there as a one of the things which I can think of. The other two I can think of is the diverse ecosystem, right? It has been a kind of a important, right? Because number of times the diverse ecosystem brings in the best of all worlds, right? When you're building a DPI like this, and third, I think some sort of a public good approach, thinking consumer at the center of any ecosystem, would kind of help to build a scale in a faster time period. I think these are three things which I can talk about. I think UPI, and somewhere I feel that UPI is not even started to that level. I think we are approaching a true exponential and network effect movement. UPI can grow 10x from here. So I think NPCI is very sure that while the UPI in 2016 and 2024 looks so different, the UPI from current levels to 10x growth, and which is being used by every citizen in next maybe 10 years, is going to look very, very different. So I think this constant evolution, taking the ecosystem together to build to make the UPI experience better and better, building up more use cases, building up credit. I think there is enough on our plate for next 10 years as far as UPI is concerned, I can think of.